Hey everybody, what's going on? Clint and T here. We got a chance to go see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Ooh, I don't know why I said that like a haunted house. T, what'd you think of the movie?
I actually thought that it was going to be more fun than it was. It wasn't that fantastic. It was very kind of slow and plodding, particularly in the first half. I feel like the second half had a lot of really fun moments and sequences, but it took a really long time to get there.
I was ready to hit the ground running with this movie.
I mean, the movie opens very explosively. Literally, the first shot of the movie is like an explosion. And then it's a lot of like, wait, what is this movie about?
Yeah.
And you get the distinct impression that this movie is based off of a book that was a spin-off of another book, and this book does not have a narrative.
There's nothing in this movie that is pulled from the actual source material, which in and of itself was a fake book in the universe of Harry Potter. It's one of Harry Potter's textbooks at Hogwarts. But ultimately what this is about, Newt Scamander is a magizoologist, shows up on a boat in New York with a briefcase full of wonderful creatures, and then sort of all hell breaks loose. He kind of stumbles his way into a bigger plot that has to do with Grindelwald. Recently, the news has come out that Grindelwald and Dumbledore, a young Dumbledore, will in fact be a big part of Fantastic Beasts, the 5-part film series that they're planning now. That will all be written by J.K. Rowling and all directed by David Yates, the guy who directed this. So, like, in that respect, I feel like there was a movie. There was a movie sitting there about Newt Scamander, and he comes to New York, and his case, whoops, pops open. Magical beasts, fantastic beasts in the American
scavenger
wizarding
hunt.
community. Yeah, and then, like, adventurous, trying to get them back. So there's that movie, but then most of the way through writing that movie, they were like, oh, hey, let's make 5 of these, and let's make it about Grindelwald and Dumbledore.
We got to have a proper bad guy in here, so let's get that teed up for the next few movies.
So this is very much a movie that has its eye on the next 4 movies, which is gross.
This isn't a properly bad movie.
No.
I mean, it's just not as good as it could have been. I feel like it has so much potential to be good, and it's got a few good moments sprinkled in there, but for the most part, it was quite boring.
Just kind of misses on every level, which is really disappointing because I'm a big fan of the Wizarding World. I like
and I'm a fan
Harry
of
Potter.
magic.
See?
I was surprised that this fell flat because I felt like one of the weaker points was the actual script, and it was written by J.K. Rowling. Like, I don't recall if she ever wrote any of the adaptations for the Harry Potter movies. I don't believe she did. And I had higher hopes because I was just like, well, this is the mastermind behind this entire universe. And I feel like it's one of the weaker scripts out of the entire Harry Potter canon.
I think though a lot of that is chalked up to how they were serving 2 different masters. Like they were trying to, and I mean that in a couple of different ways, because there's the thing about, there's just the movie about Newt that could have been on its own, and then there's the things like, well, no, we have to set up this whole thing. So like it's sandwiched by these Grindelwald things, and then the Grindelwald is sort of sprinkled through the middle of it.
Yeah.
In another sense, they were leaning really heavy on like, hey, Wizarding World's back, right? That's good enough,
right?
You know. So
remember this? Remember that music that you like?
They used it not in like a shorthand of we don't have to explain things anymore, because one of the main characters was still a muggle or a nomad is what the Americans
nomad in America.
called him. And so he's running around having to have everything explained to him. So by proxy, we're having everything explained to us. But the attitude of the whole movie is like, no, you guys get this. We're just going to, you get it. You're going to enjoy just being here. So we don't have to push the narrative in an interesting way. And we don't have to make this scene as exciting as we possibly can, because you guys are just excited to be in front of another sort of Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, I also don't feel like they felt the need to develop the characters properly. I feel like Newt himself is very underdeveloped, considering he is our protagonist for this film, and I would imagine for the ones that are coming up. I mean, so I just thought that it was strange that we sort of don't learn a whole lot about who he is. Every little bit of information we get almost comes too late, after we should have grown to be invested in this character in a much more meaningful way. It's almost like too little too late.
And literally half of the main characters, I mean literally half, possibly slightly more than half of the main characters are stoically silent for one reason or the other. They're either socially awkward.
Right.
So there's a lot of
tons of shots of people just looking at each other and no dialogue. And I'm like, am I having an acid flashback? What is happening?
They're either socially awkward, they're clearly hiding something, or they're the nomad who doesn't know what's going on. He's just like, there's a lot of very quiet, like, let's just watch people react. So, and there's nothing wrong with using that, but when
you gotta have
literally the
shots,
first 45 minutes of the movie
you can't have only reaction shots.
I was checked out by the time it got interesting.
Yeah.
I really was. Because it does get more fun as the movie goes on. Once they get to the meat of the story, it gets more fun, and there's fun stuff in there. It just all misses by like just a little bit. Sort of more like beasts. And
fine beasts.
Yeah. And
fine.
Know where they are so you can look somewhere else if you feel like it.
Aggressively fine beasts. Actually, that is one thing that I think they did kind of put a lot of work into, is actually designing these creatures. They had a lot of fun with that, I think. But in terms of what we get to do with them and what we see them do in the movies, there just wasn't enough.
They used some of the properties, the magical properties that the beasts have, in sort of ways to kind of reverse engineer clever ways to catch them, but they did that twice. So anyway, it's not a movie about Fantastic Beasts. It's a movie about Grindelwald.
It's a movie that's about the
really.
sequel that hasn't even come out yet.
Which is a real bummer, because that's been, and I had the same thought about Warcraft. I thought Warcraft was another of these movies that it was a good movie that was sort of brought down to a fine movie because it had its eyes on the 3 or 4 movies it was about to go and make once it was done with this one. You know, it wasn't they didn't make a good movie. They built a world for 5 movies to exist in. All right, everybody, that is what we think of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Let us know what's your favorite magic movie? What's your favorite movie about magic? Mine's Willow. Let us know. Ooh, that's a good one. Let us know in the comments down below. Click like to subscribe. Stick around CineFix for more movie stuff. We will see you next time.